It was quite a weekend at O'Brate Stadium as Oklahoma State won the final Big 12 Conference Bedlam series in front of record-setting crowds on Friday and Saturday. That was something.
Yeah, it was great. You know, when you're in the stadium and competing, you can kind of feel, especially from our dugout, the outfield seats looked completely jam-packed, and the standing room only stuff looked about as full as I've ever seen it. And you don't quite get a sense of what's going on behind you in the chairbacks there, but I had a pretty good view of the outfield. I thought it looked like a remarkable crowd, and then after the game, I saw it was a record crowd. So, back-to-back days, the fans rolled out. The Friday game obviously was a lot more fun. Great Friday night baseball, exciting victory for us. Saturday, they evened the score with us a little bit, which brought it to Sunday. And I thought it was an amazing battle of two good baseball teams competing for an important series. And the back and forth nature of the game is pretty typical of a Sunday. But we were able to put something together at the end of the game there in innings 7, 8, and 9 that really showed some strength of our team, the depth of our roster. And really, I think it brought out some of the resiliency in individuals who fought hard to put themselves in position to help us win. And I think probably Donovan's home run is something that really stands out just because it was such a moment, not only for him, but for our teams that put us back ahead. But really just kind of highlights just the number of new people contributing to our team this year. And at one stretch on Sunday, Avery Ortiz, Donovan LaSalle, Colin Ritchie, 3 freshmen, batting 5, 6, 7 hole in a lineup. That's a pretty cool thing to see, young guys emerging and stepping in. So I thought it was a great weekend for our team. It was a lot of fun to share it with our fan base. And we're very thankful we have this beautiful facility to call home. It's definitely opened the doors for some new experiences.
Oh, without a doubt. You were talking about the 3 freshmen. So here we are in the 7th. You're down by 2 runs. You have the bases loaded with 1 out. And here they come, 3 in a row. Avery Ortiz, freshman. Donovan LaSalle, freshman, who was only going to be taking his 18th career at bat.
Yep. And
Colin Ritchie, freshman. Base hit, get a guy thrown out to plate, 2 out. 3-run homer by LaSalle. Base hit by Ritchie, and then of course the walks happened after that. I can't imagine, as you've pondered that, in a world where you don't see freshmen getting opportunities like that all that often.
Yeah,
those guys come through in a big way.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. When I wrote the lineup at 12:20, I was sitting there trying to figure out slots 6 through 9. And I kept asking myself, okay, I feel pretty good about 1 through 5. I like the arrangement with Benj and Earhart, and then Aiden and Schubert, and then just kind of how we pair these guys up and their different skill sets. Right. And then I realized kind of where we were at, that I was getting ready to lay down 3 talented young men's names in a row that were freshmen as they complemented each other, kind of building our way to the back of the lineup. And for a second you sit there and say, gosh, maybe I should break them up, or maybe I should, but then you stop and say, okay, Avery Ortiz has handled these situations. He's coming off a day where he's played really well. Donovan LaSalle has swung the bat early in the season with tremendous confidence, fought back from injury, and has already shown just the first week back from being released a love for hitting that just makes you believe in him. Mm-hmm. And then Colin Ritchie has been awfully steady and strong and solid, seems to manage his emotions extremely well, never gets too sped up. And it just felt like that's how they fit in the lineup that day. And so I ran him in there 5, 6, 7. And, 3, 4 hours later, I'm sitting in the dugout going, all right, well, this is the order in which we put them because we believed in them and believed they could contribute and do the job. And I'm really proud of the way they handled it because, to your point, Avery's base hit was huge. And I liked the aggression of trying to get that second run.
Sure.
Kid made a great throw. It was a clean tag. They made a good defensive play. But the fact that Donovan stepped up on the very next at-bat, and continue to deliver. Just a great example of, I think, a fearlessness that sometimes a young player can possess, that when you can capture that, it's very valuable. He was so excited to be playing, he had no time to waste his thoughts on the fear of failure. And there's just something very free about young guys just getting in there. So proud of those kids, proud of the grit of the upperclassmen. Aiden Miola really stands out to me, his toughness. Nolan Schubert's toughness, battling back from his surgery to play. You look around and say Zach Earhart's playing the best he's ever played. And Carson Bench just continues to do amazing things. Very few baseball players can do the things that kid can do.
Yeah, Zach Earhart is on a tear of crazy proportions. I think the last 2 weeks he's hovering somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 at the plate. The thing that jumps out to me about him, though, and you talk about pairing up guys in the lineup, he has just killed left-hand pitching. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the exact number is now. It's above 500, if I remember correctly. So it sounds like it's not just about the fact that he has these big numbers, but what a great option you have in what can be a pretty heavy left-hand hitting lineup, that you have a guy like him that is just torn up left-hand pitching.
Yeah, I mean, Zach is such a key part of our offense because he's one of the most versatile players we have. Foot speed, great bat-to-ball skills. He has bunt skills. He has some power. He has gap-hitting power. He's very, very difficult to strike out. He knows the strike zone. So he's just a very dynamic player. He can do a lot of things. I think the thing, too, that, kind of where I thought going into this thing this year, a guy like Wolford, a guy like Bo Sylvester, those kids I thought were going to be real impact pieces against left-hand pitching to kind of offset the left-handed heaviness of our lineup. Obviously, Bo's out and Tyler's out. So I bring that up because, Donovan and Avery have to step in and absorb some of those production opportunities that a Wolford or a Bo Sylvester were kind of built to be impact parts of a offensive lineup against tough left-hand pitching, because as we've seen, we still have 2 left-hand starters this weekend and 3 left-handers out of the bullpen. I think that's going to continue to be the trend throughout. So we got to keep working on that as a team, finding more and more ways to score against lefties. But if you look at the Oral Roberts game and the 3 games against Oklahoma, we saw a lot of left-handed pitching and ultimately scored at a decent clip throughout the entire week.
It's interesting. If you think about the weekend collectively, there were a lot of things that really didn't go your way. I mean, obviously Oklahoma with a lot of home runs, some key pitches that maybe missed by half a ball.
Yeah.
There were a lot. I guess what I'm trying to say is there were a lot of reasons you could have lost this series easily, but yet despite, line drive double play, that ended an inning, things like that, still found a way, because there were a lot of things that were trying to go against you.
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing about this series, and maybe one of the reasons why the kind of huge cluster of homers that they hit ultimately didn't prove to be the difference, we weren't walking people.
Yes.
Our guys did a great job, and our starters and our front-end bullpen guys, they did a great job of not creating extra runners to allow the home run to be costly. Whereas I think we, on the other hand, drew a pretty high number of walks, which created multiple opportunities where one hit could create multiple runs. So it was a little bit of a unique series in the sense that they had a big home run total, but we had a little bit higher walk total. And in the end, the difference was enough runs on our side to win 2 of 3. So it is interesting. It's why baseball is such an amazing game. And if you really dive in there and peel it back sometimes, you realize it's not oftentimes a solo home run will beat you. But boy, those days when you're creating extra free passes or defensively you're giving up too many extra bases, those seem to be the days when a game or an inning can really get away from you.
Yeah, and finally, important week. Go to Wichita State.
Yeah.
Home for Cincinnati. Cincinnati just swept TCU, so this is another important week.
Well, they all are, and they're all, a great new challenge, and with each week is an opportunity to get better and an opportunity to continue to grow as a team. And I think the biggest thing for us, the kids are starting to learn what it takes every week to recharge their battery, refocus their mind, recommit to their weekly routine, first and foremost starting with school and their personal responsibilities, and then obviously the rest and recovery mentally and emotionally from the games of the previous weekend. And then by Tuesday, you have to be ready to compete at a high level because all of the midweek games are against good opponents and they're all meaningful. So that carries you through the rest of the week, and Big 12 play has proven to be extremely balanced. I don't look at the standings because the only ones that'll matter will be the final ones, but I do know there's a bunch of teams virtually stacked up because there's a lot of good teams out there. And maybe some of the preseason predictions about who was going to finish where have proven to be a little bit based on previous history and maybe not as accurate based on current roster, right? We're seeing already some ball clubs that maybe people didn't know a whole lot about are playing really good baseball. So just a continued challenge, but it's kind of what we're used to now. And sometimes you can get really comfortable and protected in that routine of just take care of your business, control what you can control, get your mind where it needs to be, keep your body healthy, and just compete one day at a time.
So on the road at Wichita State, then looking forward to big crowds again this weekend as the Cowboys have another home conference series coming up against Cincinnati over the weekend. We'll talk to you next week